Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to episode 219 of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to share the marketing and mindset strategies to help you grow your practice, increase your income, your influence, and your enjoyment. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about what it takes to be a community influencer. Now, many of you know I have a coaching program called Community Influencer, so I'm not talking about what it takes to join that, although just know this, you should, because it's cool and it will really help you. But I'm going to talk in general about this term community influencer, what I mean by it, and why I think that you and your practice should be trying to build this as an asset. In fact, I think it is going to be one of the fundamental assets that the practices of the future have if they want to be successful. So I'm going to break down that word, and then I'm going to share with you the 10 characteristics of a community influencer. So this is going to be a really fun episode. Let's dive our way into it. First of all, I want to take a look at the terms. What do I mean by community? One of the mistakes that we often make is that we think that with social media that we need to be famous, that we need to have thousands of followers, that we need to create videos that go viral. And that's not the case. And in fact, sometimes that can and is very often a distraction and can get in the way of you getting results from your social media. Community is a group of people living in the same place and having a particular characteristic in common. So two things there. Not only do we want to be serving the people local to us as well, but we're looking for people that have the same values. We're looking for people that are interested in natural health care, that are open to the idea that the body is self-healing and that the nervous system is the master system that coordinates all that. They're open to the idea of vitalism and holism and conservatism. There's only so many people that we can care for in our practice, and we want to be talking to our tribe, our community as well. I love the idea of 5 mile famous. You want to be, and you need to be, when you walk down your street, you need to have people recognizing you. If you're walking into a new shop, you want people to be saying, hey, I've seen your videos. I love your videos. This is something that is not only possible, but this is something that I see happen with chiropractors around the globe when they start to implement some of these characteristics that we'll talk about in a moment. So 5 mile famous, a community of people that are local to you and that share your values. Okay, so let's talk about the word influencer and why I chose that. So first of all, when I came up with the term influencer, I wasn't referring to what we see as an influencer on lots of the social media platforms now. You know, these people traveling around the world and staying in fancy hotels and being an influencer from that term. Although there are some real similarities, we'll talk about those in a moment. It's interesting also because influence is one of those terms that can be taken two ways. Sometimes we will think about the connotations of almost manipulation that can come with influence. But we want to use influence really for good. And this is something that Rob Cialdini talks about inside his book as well. So I think influence might, whilst in some ways it's very intangible, it's quite possibly the greatest asset that you and your practice should be focusing on building. Why do I think that's the case? Well, let's look at what do I mean by influence? What is the definition of influence? Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, the development, or the behavior of someone or something. Let me say that again. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, the development, and the behavior of someone or something. Jae Baer, who is the founder of a huge marketing company called Convince and Convert, he works with brands like Nike and Hilton and Cisco, Oracle. So written numerous best-selling books. I really love his quote. He says, true influence drives action, not just awareness. One of the frustrations that I hear from many of you is that you're building your social media following. You're on there all the time, but you never get any new patients from it. This is going to sound a little bit harsh. The reason you don't get any new patients from your social media is that you have no influence. Okay? Influence, as Jae Baer talks about, drives action. The action that we want is people to get on the phone and to call us. Now, we will talk about what it takes to build influence in a moment when we go through those characteristics. But it's fascinating, when I was looking up this word and going back to the origins of it, it's a French word, Now, I was going to use my French accent for a moment there, but that would have been terrible. But the French root of the word is the emanation from the stars, affecting someone's fate. It also has similar roots of the word influx. Again, so the divineness that literally comes down. I thought that was kind of neat. I kind of like to see us as chiropractors having some kind of divine guidance, trying to help impact people's fate as well. When we look at kind of more modern definitions of the influencer, the social media influencers, there's a lot of kind of parallels. Again, it's the power to affect purchasing decisions of others because of, here's the interesting thing, because of their authority, knowledge, position, or relationship. It's what we want. We want to have the ability to affect their behaviors because of our authority, of our knowledge, our position, and our relationship with them. So we should be using our social media really to build relationships. They talk about an influencer has a following in a distinct niche. We talked about that with regards to our distinct niche is partially our community. And now not only the demographics of our community also, but the psychographics of our community. What are their values? We're looking at people who are open to the idea of natural healthcare as well. And again, they'll go on to talk about the size of the following really depends on their topic and their niche. So we don't need to have tens of thousands. I think on my wife's Instagram account there too, I think they have sort of 700 or 800 followers. And we have new patients each and every week come to us because of that. And I will hear stories from other chiropractors that have thousands of followers and get no results at all. So again, that comes back to being able to have influence. So how is it that we become a community influencer? Now we know what those words mean, the community, the local people around us, the people with similar sets of values, and the influence is this ability to be able to impact behavior. I think it's interesting too, particularly when you think about, as a doctor, the root word of that being teacher. We're trying to teach people, but having somebody just have a mental understanding of it without application is pointless. Okay, that's where that word influence comes in as well. So I think it's been 3 or 4 years that I've now worked with hundreds of chiropractors very closely, and thousands, tens of thousands in some of the wider courses that I've done. But in terms of the group coaching, I've worked with hundreds of chiropractors around the globe over the last 4 years now. There are 10 characteristics that I see of a community influencer. And as I'm going through these, I want you to do a kind of mental checklist. Like, where do you fit in these? Where are your strengths? Whilst they're all important, I'm going to rank them kind of as we go through. Some of them are very similar in some ways and work quite well together. I want to start with this. I'm going to start with this one because it's foundational as well. A community influencer is generous. They know that the whole they give through is the whole they receive through. I remember when I first heard Zig Ziglar say that you can get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. That is ultimately the strategy that I have built the community influencer method around, is us being generous. Now, why is it so damn important that we're generous? It's important because of the increasing lack of trust that's happening in this world, and particularly the increasing lack of trust that's happening in the online space. We're growing, and we should be, more and more skeptical all the time. And so you need to be turning up week after week, being generous and serving and solving problems and being valuable, because that helps to build trust. And when you have massive trust in your community, you'll also have a massive practice. Okay, trust and influence go along again and again and again. Now, the other thing that generous does is it starts to build upon and starts to grow one of the other really important influence characteristics, and that is reciprocity. In his book, Influence, Robert Cialdini talks about the power of reciprocity. And it's amazing what we will do to try and even up the ledger. When somebody gives us something, there is some kind of psychic debt that we have that we feel compelled to repay. Now, when we're generous with our community and we're delivering value with them, that level of reciprocity or that level of debt that they feel as well. Now, and that comes across as maybe in the workplace and somebody saying, man, I'm looking for a chiropractor. They will immediately want to repay the debt of the value that they have given by referring to you, whether that be a digital referral over to watch your videos or whether that be into your practice. When we're not generous, when we're showing up in our social media to get our needs met as opposed to meeting the needs of the people in our community. It's really visible. It's visible, though, as an intangible. We're aware of it in your body language. We're aware of it in your words, in your actions. And your neediness comes across, it's almost repulsive as well. So we must be generous and we must be focused on serving our community. On to characteristic number 2 of a community influencer, and that is that you need to be committed and determined. Now, I was trying to work out, these words are very similar to me as well, and I couldn't work out which one I wanted to choose, so I'll kind of have them as the same point here as well. Now, you cannot control the circumstances, the environment that you're in, i.e. the pandemic that's happening at the moment. And we can't really control results. We can have a huge, the actions that we take, the emotions that we bring to it, the things that we do. But still, results, particularly with what we're wanting to do with regards to our marketing, our social media, somebody else has to pick up the phone and call you. Not everything is completely in our control. So we must be committed to taking steps again and again and again. Now, I remember Mel Fisher is a guy who is a treasure hunter, and he became aware of, I'm going to make a whole podcast and tell you about this story because it's a stunning story. But basically for 16 years, he searched the ocean floor looking for treasure. Now, in order to be able to do that, there needs to be a level of commitment and there needs to be a level of determination. You are not going to get results with your social media tomorrow or next week. Now, depending on the foundation you're coming from, this is the long game. This is farming. You are building a farm out the back of your practice that whenever you want, you can go out there and pick a new patient. And this is what stops a lot of chiropractors in their track. They don't have that commitment and that determination as well. Now, in order for you to be committed to show up generous week after week after week, there needs to be some beliefs that underpin commitment and determination. So if you struggle with determination and commitment, then I'm going to suggest that maybe that you check a couple of your beliefs underneath it. So I think these would be really important for you to take on. First of all, it can be done. I can build a following on social media. I can build authority and expertise and trust. I can show up generously each and every week and I can attract. You have to think it can be done. Then you have to think that I can do it. Okay, so I can actually do it there too. And the third thing you need to think about is that it's worth it, that all this time, effort and energy is worth it. So check in. If you fail or if you have difficulty with determination and or commitment, check yourself against those things. Do you think that it's possible in general? Do you think it's possible for you? And do you think that it's worth it? If you're lacking one of those beliefs, then that's probably a fair reflection of why you struggle with commitment and or determination. The third point or characteristic that a community influencer has is that they have a growth mindset. They're failure proof. I've talked again and again on the podcast about Carol Dweck's work. She's a psychologist from Stanford, and her book Mindset. It should be required reading for everybody. It's a conversation that I've been having with my children since they were very, very young. I love having it with kids. I love asking them questions like, I was having some dinner with some great friends of ours on the weekend, lovely chiropractic couple, amazing, vibrant kids. And I was talking to their boy, James, about school and does he like school? How does he feel about school? And how does he feel when things are hard? And he felt excited. He said, I like it when things are hard. That's the sign of a growth mindset. Now, inside of a growth mindset too, we also look at failure in an interesting way. Instead of being paralyzed by failure, we see failure as an opportunity for us to learn something new. Now, this leads me into this next point here because they go together. In order for us to be seeing failure as something new, then the fourth point of a community influencer is that there needs to be curiosity. So we can ask ourselves, what did I just learn from that? I made that video and nobody watched that. What did that mean? I put together that Facebook ad and here's what come. When there's curiosity, this is a great characteristic that fuels the growth mindset. I have been trying to build on curiosity. I know sometimes it drives my gorgeous wife a little crazy, but often I will go, that's fascinating. I want to, instead of being triggered by what's happening, instead of jumping into it emotionally, I like to take a step back and I like to stay curious and or fascinated. Now, the fifth point, or the fifth characteristic of a community influencer is there needs to be courage. They're courageous. This is the ability to do something that frightens us. In fact, again, looking back at the root word of that, courage comes from a Latin word of cor, the heart. It means that it takes heart for us to do this, and then we might feel a level of vulnerability inside of it too. Now, courage is important, but courage doesn't always feel good. It's interesting. We want confidence because confidence feels good. But before we can get to confidence and feeling good, there's a stage when we don't have the competence, lots of C words here, which means we don't have the skill set in order to be able to do it. Maybe it's the first time that you're going to be doing a live video. Maybe it's the first time you're going to be doing a talk out into your community there. You're not going to have the confidence yet, so you're going to need courage. It's important for you to know that when you want to move from where you are now to where you want to go, whatever that journey is, if that's journey that you haven't been before, it's going to require you have the ability to tolerate feeling not good. Okay, that's what courage is. It's essential. On to characteristic number 6. Community influencers are action takers. We'll talk about great students in a moment, but they're people that actually do things. None of any of this works if we don't take action. Sitting and just listening to the podcast, walking and just listening to the podcast, reading all the marketing books, watching all of the videos means nothing unless we actually get off our backside and take action, okay? We need to think about serving our community. We need to be actually doing something. Now, often that's the thing, I will be talking to a chiropractor. They'll say, I've listened to all of your podcasts, Angus. I read this book. I've done this seminar. I've invested in this course. Nothing's working for me. And then I like to ask the question, but what have you actually done? And very often what we've done is we've become professional students. We're great at learners, but we're not great at taking action. So action taking is a great characteristic of a community influencer. Community influencers are also leaders. They feel a responsibility to serve their community. They feel a responsibility to go first. I find that lots of us as chiropractors have inside of us a sense of leadership. We got exposed to chiropractic and the message of chiropractic, and there's part of us that said, I must share that with our community, or my community, or the world wider there as well. There's a sense of responsibility that comes from us having to step up and be at the front of the line there. So leadership is essential, particularly because, we're sharing a contrary message as chiropractors. We're saying that health doesn't come from a pill or a potion. We're saying it comes from inside. We're saying that the very best doctor is actually the one inside of you, that your body doesn't need any help, it just needs no interference. We're telling them about the innate immune system, that's really where all the magic kind of happens. And in order for us to be able to say these things that are often uncommon and uncomfortable to say there needs to be leadership. The 8th characteristic of a community influencer is that they're coachable. Okay, so they are great students. While they're confident in their own abilities, they're really open to learning more. I find it fascinating, there's that word again there too, is that sometimes I'll have somebody come to me for coaching, and then what they'll do is they will argue that they're right. And I'm like, hang on, this is not working for you, which is why you're here chatting with me right now. This belief system that you have, this worldview that you have is causing a lot of pain for you. It's not allowing you to grow your practice. It's not giving you joy and those kind of things here. And now you've enrolled or engaged me to help you, and now you're going to argue for this belief, okay? It's pointless. We need to be open to the idea of learning new things. One of the questions that I've got in the habit of asking myself is I like to ask, what does a great student look like in this situation? When I join a new mastermind, there's a couple I've joined this year, and I've spoken to the people that are leading the mastermind. I like to ask them that question. What does a great student look like? What are the people that do really well with your work? What do they look like? And I want to find out what are the characteristics, what do they do, what do they believe, who are they? So the 8th point that we're talking about here, the characteristic of a community influencer, is that they are coachable. The 9th characteristic, I was trying to think of a word for this as well, but here's who they are, is they take responsibility. They see themselves as the cause rather than the effect, regardless of the situation. Now, over this last, I can't believe I'm going to say it's nearly 2 years, or certainly a year and a half of us living in this changed climate of COVID. I speak with a lot of chiropractors, And I'm curious and I'm fascinated by the results and their worldviews. Now, clearly, I didn't cause COVID, and you didn't cause COVID, and these chiropractors didn't cause COVID. But the ones, because I've seen practices thrive from it, and I've seen practices die because of COVID. And one of the things in common with the practices that thrive is they see themselves being responsible, is that they're not going to let COVID be the cause of their practice crashing. They're seeing the opportunity. What kind of impact can I have here? And those that fail, I hear them say things like COVID wrecked my practice, and often it's not wrecked. They like to use even more descriptive words from that too. So they take responsibility. Even they might say, look, I got somebody to run my Facebook ads and that person was a complete muck up. They take responsibility. I should have interviewed better. I should have asked better questions. When this puts us in a situation of power as opposed to a situation of impotence, we always have the ability to decide what things mean and what we're going to do as the result of them. So community influencers, people who are building impact and influence in their community, who have an enormous amount of know, like, and trust. They're constantly taking responsibility for their actions and for their worldview. They're checking in there as well. The 10th and final point I wanted to finish with is that all of this only works is a community influencer is massively empathic. Okay, they have a great sense of empathy, and I'll tell you why this is important. One of the things that you are as a community influencer is that you're a problem solver. When we come back to the definition of influence that we talked about beforehand, is that influence really is the capacity to have an effect on character development and behavior. Now, in order for us to do that, to be able to have an effect on it there too, we want to be sharing valuable information that solves a problem. And in order to solve a problem, we need to know what the problem is. Empathy is what underpins all of that. It's empathy that allows us to see a problem and want to solve a problem. We also need to be able to do this with an emotional intelligence that allows us to communicate in that person's language, use their words, their phrases, to communicate them in a way that's all about them. This is really what empathy is. It's empathy that lets you know your audience almost better than they know themselves. Real value, really what you need to do is you need to get inside the mind of the people that you're going to serve. It's been said, I forget which one of them, maybe even another Jae Abraham quote, is that you need to understand the conversation that's going on inside your patients' minds at 2 a.m. in the morning as well. So empathy is one of those master skills that you need to develop. And for some of us, it comes very naturally. And for others, it needs to be developed. So let me review those 10 characteristics again there too, to quickly run over those of a community influencer. They're generous, they're committed, and they're determined. They have a growth mindset that they're failure proof. They're curious, maybe even fascinated. There's courage, they're courageous. Remember, that's all about the heart there as well. They're action takers as well. Community influencers are leaders. Community influencers are coachable. Okay, they're fantastic students as well. Community influencers take responsibility. They are at cause rather than being at effect. And community influencers are empathic. So check yourself with those. Out of those 10, where do you fit in? I know that there'll be some of you that'll be just knocking it out of the park with all of those. And my guess is this, if you're knocking it out of the park with all of those, you're probably getting fantastic results with your marketing as well, is that you're building more know, like, and trust in your community. For those of you that might have some areas that you need to improve, then there's a bit of a roadmap from this of where to go. And for some of you, if you're wanting some support with this, if you're wanting some coaching, then I want to invite you to come and join me inside of Community Influencer. There is a beautiful, beautiful community of health practitioners, mostly chiropractors inside of that too, but there's a couple of other allied health practitioners that have snuck in, who I love working with as well. But it's a great tribe of people. When you join Community Influencer, there are many ways that I can help you, but I want to share just 5 of them here now as I kind of wrap this up as well. We have a twice weekly open Q&A on Zoom. What does that look like? Well, we get on Zoom and people come in and they ask questions. This morning, a couple of hours ago, 6:30 a.m. here in Australia there too, we were talking about live videos, the structure of a live videos. We solved some of the tech problems that often come with a live videos. We talked about the framework of a live videos. We also put together a content plan for one of our coaching members who does great work with new mums and mums-to-be. We talked about the importance and how they could position themselves as a great resource. So twice a week, we have the opportunity where you can get on and ask me any questions that you have with regards to your marketing and or mindset. Now, not only those calls a great opportunity to use my brain and for me to share with you, but there's a great collaboration that happens amongst the community influencer members as well. We do a monthly deep dive on a topic. Next month in August, I'm doing a deep dive into Google My Business. This is something that I do and redo each year as it starts to evolve. Google My Business, when you set that up right, is one of the things that brings new patients in each and every week to your practice. But you have to have it set up right. You have to know how to regularly engage with it and the right things to do. So this will be a very tactical training to make sure that your Google My Business site is set up properly as well. I create what's called community influencer content. Actually, let me just go back to those monthly deep dive trainings. So I have 3 years of deep dive trainings there that you get immediate access to. Anything from how to optimize your website, how to do a Facebook ad, how to make more videos with less effort. You know, we talk about goal setting in there. So there's 3 years of deep dive trainings in there that you get immediate access to each of those as well. Community influencer content. One of the difficulties that people often have in the early days is coming up with content ideas, and they just need to get the wheels spun a little bit. So each month I release another whole month of content. This month at the moment, I'm talking about the unsettled baby, but whether it be headaches or sciatica or whether it be about longevity, community influencer content, what those monthly content looks like is videos. There's 4 featured videos. These are 3 to 5 minute videos with the transcript there for you to either create those videos word for word as I've done them. Because if I take a step to the side there too, one of the challenges is if you have somebody else creating content for you, how are you being the influencer? Okay, you need to show up. It needs to be you as a personality there too. Now, when I create these videos, I want you to infuse your personality, but just the fact that you're sharing this message will be the beginning of you starting to show up as an influencer. So along with those 4 featured videos, I'll give you ideas for reels, for stories, and then also just regular kind of image posts as well. So there's, a platinum social media content creation all there for you. Just infuse a little bit of your personality inside of there as well. So that's the other thing that you get inside there. You also get the back catalogue of all the trainings that I've done. There are social media summits, marketing summits in there, All-Star Summit 1 and 2, where I've got 20 of the best chiropractic coaches where I talk to each of them about what is world-class marketing, initial consultation, report of findings, daily interactions as well. It's stunning program. And then finally, there's the Facebook page. We've got this beautiful community on our Facebook page. You can post your videos there. I will review your videos. You can ask questions as well. So 5 ways I can help you. Summary again, back catalogue of all the trainings I've got. There's community influencer done for you content that you can just get in there, download the transcript, shoot those videos for you. There's deep dive trainings, almost 3 years of those twice weekly Zoom Q&A, and then there's the Facebook page as well. Gang, that's what it takes to be a community influencer. I think it's one of the assets that you should be building in your community if you're wanting to have more people know you, like you, and trust you. And therefore, remember, the more people that do know you, like you, and trust you, the busier your practice will be. Gang, until next time, thank you for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Your community needs you so desperately. Till next time, see you soon. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.